Hey there, I'm Michelle.
I'm Jim, and we are
A Tea of Your Own. Welcome to another Motivational Monday.
Let's get motivated.
Woo!
Woo!
Yay! It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood,
It is.
and it's a fun day in the neighborhood. Lots going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots going on. Lots of adventures going on.
Yes. Go ahead. I don't know where you're going. I'm waiting to see where you're headed here.
Well, one of the things that we're talking about today is jumping, grow wings on the way down.
Right.
Which is Jack Canfield said that. But Paul Martinelli and Les Brown and several other people have their take on that.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, actually.
Walt Disney.
Yes.
And so part of it is, that adventure of not knowing what's coming, of not knowing what's next. And we're entering that phase in our life.
Yes, we are.
Yes, where it's an adventure. And that's the positive way to think of it. Because how could you think of it if you want it to be negative?
It's very scary.
Yeah. But you don't. You think of it as something fun and exciting and an adventure waiting to happen.
Okay.
It's going to be fun. All right, so you can tell by the background we're not at home right now. We are out on the road, and that's part of the adventure.
That is part of the adventure.
Is we're out on the road, and we'll be back home next week.
Yes.
So that's cool. But lots of stuff going on, lots of adventures waiting to happen. We had a good time in Orlando.
We did.
Got to see a lot of our friends. Got to learn some really cool things. What was your biggest takeaway from the International Maxwell Conference?
Oh, boy. There were so many of them. I think, who was the speaker? Was it Malcolm Gladwell?
Malcolm Gladwell was one of the speakers.
Yes. When he was doing a presentation and he was talking about professors from top universities and their publishing. And it was quite the revelation that outside of the top 5%, and really outside of the top 1%, there was very little publishing of papers that was going on in major journals, which, we're fully aware of that. We know that there are many faculty out there who manage to achieve tenure with maybe publishing one article, maybe two in a major journal, but they will publish several articles in much smaller journals. And depending on where they are, they might be able to get away with that and get to tenure, which is what every single professor wants to do, because the thing about tenure is then you're employed for life. It is extremely difficult to lose your job. It can happen. It does happen. But it's extremely difficult to lose your job once you have made it to associate professor and you're tenured. And that's the goal for a lot of faculty, is then they've got that job security. And so he was showing, though, that really what that means is that for many people, they don't necessarily need to go and invest in the most expensive, which, when you're going to Harvard, when you're going to Yale, when you're going to Columbia, when you're going to those Ivy League schools, Princeton, wherever, they're expensive. If you're paying for it yourself, it is very expensive. And the payoff may not necessarily be there. He was making the point that you could, because then he showed the similarity, or showed the statistics for people who had graduated, and these were economists. This is all economics people, showing the numbers for folks who had not gone to those very elite schools. And the interesting thing is the numbers were not that different. So what it shows you is that you can go to these different schools. And I think the way that relates to what we're doing is it clearly shows that you don't necessarily have to go jump into the most expensive programs. to be able to learn how to do certain things. If you've got a path that you're wanting to go down, you have something that you're wanting to do. Yeah, there are people out there that you can pay them 20, 25,000, 50,000, 100,000. We even heard from somebody who was talking about $1 million for a year of coaching. It's a lot of money. Yeah. And the reality is and those programs may be worth it. I don't know. I'm not paying anybody $1 million. No. If I've got $1 million already, I don't know that I need a coach like that. And maybe if I'm wanting to grow a business to, being $1 billion. But for most people, that's not really their goal. Because that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort that most people aren't willing to put in. They want to get to a certain level of success. And it could be that there are other programs like Maxwell certification, right, which relatively speaking is fairly reasonably priced. Yeah. Okay. People who have entered into some of our programs, very, very reasonably priced. And we can help you get some of the same sorts of results. So that was the idea. And then, also he was talking about, I guess it was really related to the topic of diversity, because one of the things that will happen is some of these places, they crank out these graduates, and then they turn around and they hire them. And so you get this, for lack of a better term, this incestuous relationship where you basically have the people who learn from the professors there now teaching exactly what those professors were teaching, and they don't get any input from outside sources. I loved his example when he put up a list of, here's a group, and it was 9 people, and it showed what schools they came from. And it had a caption on there that said, how did Notre Dame get in there? And it showed 4 people from Harvard, and I think it was 4 from Yale, and then 1 from Notre Dame. Yep. And I figured out very quickly what this group was, and it was the Supreme Court. Yeah. Same thing. They keep pulling people from the same exact schools who have the same exact way of thinking. And so they don't get any diversity there.
But the Supreme Court is very different in their thinking.
It is different in their thinking now than it was, when it's been in any time in my lifetime. Yeah. A lot of the rulings, at least as far as I see them, and some people may disagree, and that's fine. But most of the rulings that I have seen the Supreme Court make over the last few years have adhered to the Constitution, whereas that hasn't always been the case. There has been some, I'd like to call it hyper-constitutional rulings in the Supreme Court, a lot of them in my lifetime. So it's interesting to see the reactions when they're actually making rulings based off of the Constitution. There are some people who get very upset about that. And if you truly understand, and for those people who get upset about that, I'd say maybe go do a little study about the Constitution of the Supreme Court. I know I've studied it quite a bit, studying history of all of this stuff. And what you will find is that's what they're supposed to be there for, is to call the balls and strikes, not to basically create legislation from the bench, which has happened. Right. But that wasn't the point. So straight here on the point. The point was diversity. And he was talking about, not diversity as we think of it in terms of, race and gender and religion or whatever. It's diversity of thought. Is diversity of thought. And that was his point, that is one of the issues with the Supreme Court, is you don't have a whole lot of diversity of thought there. That's one of those entities. And I don't know that it's necessary, but I think in most people's world, having a little bit of diversity. Now, what does that have to do with, because you were asking me what was my biggest takeaway, and that was the one that really stood out to me. It was very interesting. But going back to the topic of, jumping and growing your wings on the way down, part of that is the idea of, once you've made up your mind what you want to do, again, go find the people that can help you do that, and then take that leap of faith. So that's something we're doing right now.
Yes.
It's definitely taking a leap of faith. And the idea is that, yes, even if you're not ready, you're going to fall for a while. But I guess if you're on a jump off a high enough cliff, you'll have some time to grow those wings so you can spread them out and fly. And yeah.
My biggest takeaway was say what you need to say and then move on.
You trying to give me a hint here?
There was one person who spoke.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Way more than she was allotted.
Yeah.
And it was almost as if she was mocking the system.
Yeah, I think you could say that.
Yeah.
And the problem is it threw off the entire agenda for the rest of the day. And yeah, we're not going to go into super detail about it, but that's that is something else. I mean, I already knew this. I didn't really have to learn it, but boy, did we get to see it in action. You know, one of the things when we speak to a group, to an organization, whoever we're talking to, we always want to know, how much time do we have?
Yep.
How long do you want us to speak? And then we want to make sure that there is a timer somewhere that we can clearly see so we know where we are. I was telling Michelle that you know, one of the things that I will do, because my brain just goes this way, is say we're told we have 30 minutes to speak and we have 5 points that we want to make during the speech. In my mind, I break that down automatically. I've got 30 minutes, I got 5 points, I got 6 minutes per point. Now, it may be a case of, you know, we have a minute at the beginning where we're basically introducing the idea of what we're going to be talking about, and then we have a wrap up at the end. So a minute on the beginning, a minute on the end, you take those out, you got 28 minutes, you got 5 points, whatever that breaks down to. It's about 5 minutes and 40 seconds per point. And you pace yourself.
Yeah.
You realize, okay, I'm getting on this first point, and when I get to about the 24-minute mark, I need to wrap that one up, move on to the next point. The next one, get to the 18-minute mark, or somewhere around there, move on to the next one. Get to the 12-minute mark, move on, get to the 6-minute mark, make that last point, do your wrap up, and try to leave at least 15 to 30 seconds on the clock.
Yes.
Why would I say leave time? Because you got time. You could be speaking. You could be adding value. Why are you going to leave that time there?
That way they're wanting more.
Yes. And you have made it under time. And now the program can continue to move on. You never want to be the person that holds up the program. No. Because, and this happens. I know when I was doing some stand-up comedy training, that was one of the points that was made to us, is that if you as a comedian or as a performer or a speaker, whatever, you're given 10 minutes, you need to be finished in 10 minutes.
Yes.
Because the person whose class I was taking, he said he has seen this, where you get a comedian on stage, you tell them, hey, you got 20 minutes, and they go on for 40 minutes. And when they come off the stage, they're beaming and smiling and said, wasn't that great? I gave you 20 additional minutes of quality material. And that's when they tell them, yeah, the problem is you just cut into everybody else's time.
Exactly.
And they are never asked to come back again.
Nope.
Because they realize this is somebody who cannot follow time parameters. It is important that you stay within those time parameters. And I know at a conference like we were just in, it threw off everything. It threw off, because it was before lunch.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it was almost right before lunch. And the problem is there were food trucks outside waiting for people to come out and buy meals. The food service people that served our meals, they were down there waiting for us. And they needed to break everything down when we were done.
And it wasn't just that. It's people had bought VIP passes to have lunch.
Special lunch, yes.
Some of the speakers. Mm-hmm. And they were supposed to get like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yes. And they did not get it.
They did not get it.
They did not get it.
No.
And that's a problem. All of those people, I'm sure they walked out feeling cheated.
Oh, yeah.
Because they did not get the time they were promised. Yeah. And that's one person.
Yep.
One person can cause that. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. Because we saw that in action. We couldn't believe it.
No.
Because it just went on and on and on. It'd been one thing if it only been 5 or 10 minutes. That could have been made up someplace else. It was, I don't even know how long it was.
Way too long.
I lost track. It was at least twice as long as it should have been, maybe more.
All right, so what does jump, then grow wings on the way down mean to you?
exactly what we just said. It means that you're taking that leap of faith. I mean, when you're trying something new, you don't know how it's going to work out. And so if you're going to do this, especially if you're going to invest in it, invest your money, invest your time, you've got to be willing to take that risk and take that leap. I mean, anybody who's ever accomplished anything in life, they've had to do that. I mean, think about even these professional athletes. You see them out there, and yes, they're doing well, and they're making gobs and gobs of money. But for most of them, they weren't sure if they were going to be professional athletes. I mean, when you think about it, you see these kids in high school, and it's amazing how many of them tell you, oh, yeah, I'm going to go play professional baseball. I'm going to play professional football. It's like, well, some of you, yes. Most of you,
even at the
no.
high school level, though, most of them no, because there's only so many spots.
Some of them know, and some of them are delusional, and I've seen that too many times. And the ones who get to college and they still think they're playing D2 baseball, because that's what they played at school where I was teaching last, and they still think that they're going to make the pros somehow. And it's like,
no.
If you're playing baseball at this level, unless you have consciously decided to do that, probably not. So maybe you might want to explore, I don't know, something like coaching, because there's a lot of coaching positions out there. But even those ones who are going to those big schools, for some of them, they don't know. They don't know. They think they're going to, and then they find out maybe they didn't have as much talent as they had. So I've seen that happen with a couple of linebackers from Clemson, my alma mater, who I think we all thought were going to make it to the pros. I remember Ben Boulware was one of them, and just didn't happen. Just did not happen, and it amazed us because he was really good. Yeah. So, but nothing will happen if you don't take that leap of faith. No. If you don't do it, if they didn't dive into this, then there was 100% chance it wasn't going to happen. And so you got to take that. You got to take that leap. And of course, I know with Ben, he's been able to. I think he's opened up. I think I read he's got. I remember after he graduated, he had money, and he opened up a gym. I believe it was in Anderson, South Carolina. And since then, he's expanded. And so what I read is he now owns 4 gyms in the area. Nice. And so he's doing quite well. And now he's going to be going back to do some coaching. I think it's entry level, and is doing it, on his dime, complimentary. But it's a start. Yeah. It's a start to move into that direction. Again, taking another leap of faith that, perhaps he can develop into one of these people that can, move up the ranks in college football. But again, without that, taking that leap of faith, making that investment, in this case, it's going to be his time and his money, because he's not going to be making any money from doing this, from what I understand. But if he doesn't do it, then for certain he's going to fail. And that's it. If you don't take that leap of faith, you're going to fail for sure. Or you're not going to succeed because you never even bother to, take the first step.
Exactly.
So, and then the idea is that, once you get started, if you pursue it, that you will get better. It's kind of like us with speaking.
Yes.
We weren't good speakers when we started. Didn't know what the heck we were doing. I know when I first joined Toastmasters, I'd been lecturing for a long time, so I knew how to do that. And that did give me a leg up on a lot of other people, but I still needed some refinement to improve and to get better. Yeah. And so, and when you do that, you start to have some success. People start to notice. You get to do things like last year when we spoke at IMC to over 600 of our fellow mentorship members. And we got a lot of comments at this IMC, people remembering us from doing that and asking us why we weren't on the stage this time. And so it was fun.
It was
being recognized still.
Yeah.
And people telling us that was so great. You guys were so much fun.
Yep.
And I bought the game. That is true.
Some of them actually took the wrapper off.
They did.
Yeah.
Like we told them to.
All right. So if people need help, maybe they need a little bit of a push to jump. Maybe they need a plan once they have jumped. Maybe they need to figure out, what direction to even go in. Who could they reach out to?
That would be us.
That would be us.
Yes.
And how can they reach out to us?
Well, there's a multitude of ways you can give us a call. There's our phone number right there on the screen, 412-420-7975. If you don't like speaking on the phone, and some people don't, our daughter being one of those people, you can text us, and we will get back to you with your text message if you prefer to go that way. You can also send us an email. You can see right there on the screen, info@ateagueofyourown.com.
Yep.
You can go to our website, ateagueofyourown.com. Isn't that convenient?
That
Info
is.
at. So kind of cool.
Yeah.
Also, we are on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram. And we have a YouTube channel. You can find all of these videos that we make on the YouTube channel. They go back about 4 years at this point. There's a lot of them on there. If you go to our YouTube channel or any of our online, please like us, subscribe on YouTube. We would definitely appreciate it. It has certain benefits for us that allows us to be able to do more things for you.
Yes. All right. So next week we'll be home.
Yes, we'll be back home next week.
And we'll talk more about adventures, because there'll be plenty of adventures in our future. And we hope there's plenty of adventures in your future too. So if you need anything, let us know. Reach out to us. Give us a call, send us a text, drop us an email. Reach out to us on social media. We'd love to hear from you. Have a great week, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.